Well, I know we've been gone a while, but we are back and we have a guest with us in the studio today. So be sure to listen to our podcast today. Glad to be back.
You're listening to Studio 809 Podcast. This is what community sounds like.
Welcome to the Functional Fitness and Nutrition Podcast with Chronology on Studio 809. I'm Stevie.
And I'm Will.
And we're your co-hosts and experts behind Chronology, Functional Fitness and Nutrition. Chronology is a wellness company focusing on functional health and anti-aging through personal training, nutrition counseling, and a holistic approach to life. You can find us online at chronologyfit.com.
That's Chronology with a K. Welcome, everyone.
And don't forget, that's Chronology with a K. Happy New Year. Hope you all aren't going too nuts with your resolutions like we talked about a couple episodes ago. And now you're not eating anything because you're going to extreme and do stuff that's sustainable and you'll be more successful. Yeah, it's pretty crowded. It is crowded. So in about 3 weeks we'll be able to get a machine. No, I'm kidding. I'm glad to see people there. I just hope they stick with it.
Yep.
I know they usually at least half the crowd will thin out, but I would like people to stick with it. Yep. It's nice. So today,
who is our guest today?
So today we have Crystal Givens, who is a grief recovery specialist with us today.
Hi, Crystal.
Welcome.
Hello.
Let's start by learning a little bit about you, your background, and how you came to be a grief recovery specialist.
Well, I'm from Illinois. I grew up in a small farm town, and I'm a country girl at heart, and we were in the middle of nowhere, so literally, animals were my best friends, and I could give you lots of names, but I won't go there. So after, briefly, my parents got divorced when I was in high school, and then I went to college, and moved to Milwaukee. Then after Milwaukee, I landed in LA at the beach, discovered beach volleyball, my number one favorite sport. But we got married and had my children, 2 precious children. And so what led me to become a grief recovery specialist is when my children started getting older, and I don't know, I noticed I wasn't myself and emotionally started to unravel, so to speak. And I don't know what was going on. I was angry. I was bitter. I just did not feel emotionally present with my children. And I knew I needed to get help. I was desperate. Like therapy, counselor, bring it. And then a friend out of nowhere just said, hey, you should go check out that grief thing, that program. I go, that's odd. Nobody died, but okay, I'll go.
So at this point, you're thinking grief is just associated with something like death.
Exactly. Yeah, death, divorce. Some
kind of loss, yeah.
Right. And I wasn't grieving. I was just, something else was going on. But in a short amount of time through this program, I discovered I was grieving a lot. I had so many emotions I thought I had dealt with my mother, but I hadn't. I had just buried them and stuffed them. And long story short, I grew up in a typical dysfunctional family anymore, right?
I think most of us do.
Yeah. Raise our hands.
Everybody raise your hand.
And I just, she had been emotionally absent all my life. And I had just gotten to a point where, well, it is what it is. She did the best she could. And in my head, I thought I had dealt with it, but in my heart, I hadn't. So when my kids were born, I just kept expecting her to show up. I mean, doesn't grandma want to meet her children? Yeah. Well, she never did. And it just was a knife in my heart. But again, I thought, well, don't expect it. Just keep going on. So I just was grieving the fact that my mom wasn't there to help me how to raise the children, and I was very lonely and anxious. So anyway, this program helped me to discover the things I wish I had said to her, the things that I wish had been different in my childhood. I didn't have a childhood. My childhood was with animals, and there were so many black holes. So anyway, this program helped me discover how to get complete with all those emotions I had buried for years. And in a short amount of time, I implemented it. I took the action steps, and the change was so powerful. I literally felt this emotional shift where I was back in my body. And my kids came back to life and they're like, Mom's back. And so again, long story short, this program helped me get complete with a lot of unresolved pain in my relationship with my mom and a childhood I didn't have, a childhood that I deserved to have. And that is when I discovered my life's work. I got to pay this forward. This is educational. It's such a simple program. And that's why I am here today.
How long did it take you?
8 weeks.
Oh, 8 weeks. Okay. Not bad. I mean, I never considered grief in those terms. You always consider it, like I said, about a loss of something. But if a person lets you down from an expectation, that's a form of grief too, because you're grieving over why that person didn't do what you were expecting them or hoping them to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some life events that are considered grieving experiences?
Before I go into that, Will kind of hit on it. I want to define what grief is. First of all, grief is the natural and normal reaction to any type of loss, like unmet expectations, to a loss of childhood.
Yeah.
Also, grief is the conflicting feelings we have when there's an end of or there's a change to a familiar pattern of behavior. For example, a loss of health. Like I said, I played tons of beach volleyball. Well, my vertical isn't like it used to be, and that's been hard.
Right.
I can't run for miles like I used to.
Yeah.
Change of health is huge, especially as we get older.
Oh, yeah. I used to work in long-term care, and we'd have, patients that were very active. They were at every party and everything. And then if they would get an injury, usually a hip, their mental state would just go down from there, because that was a huge change, not being able to get up and walk around and go visit people and do all those things.
Yes. And also, I'm sure we're familiar with this term, empty nester.
Yeah.
There's no manual for raising children. And then when they leave, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming. Like, wait, what is... And I'm kind of going through that right now because my kids are older and mom isn't needed anymore.
It's been a few years for us, but yeah, we've been there.
Yeah.
That's because it was like almost 85% of your time was your children. So then now all of a sudden, what do I do?
Yeah, we don't have that same role in their lives. They don't need us. We're not making those lunches. We're not driving them to school. It's a big change, and that relationship changes tremendously.
Yeah, especially like with us, we have twins, and like if you don't hear from them for like 2 weeks, you're like something's got to be wrong, right? No, everything's fine.
Yeah,
they're just doing their own thing. So. Just got to get used to it, I guess.
But it is a huge grieving experience.
Yeah.
Because, again, we're used to seeing them, being around them, talking to them. That special relationship that we've shared changes. And also, so many other life experiences. I think a big one that people don't realize, it's the loss of a pet. And
yeah, so we're empty nesters extra now because our pets are both gone too. So the kids have been gone a while. That's okay, but we just recently lost our pet. So yeah,
I'm so sorry. It's huge. It's like losing it's a family member.
Yeah, and I didn't realize how it was going to feel this intense, which is kind of why I wanted you to come on and talk about grief and pets, because this just feels different than maybe when I was younger.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because the kids were gone and they, the dogs were our children now, or
I don't know.
It just feels different.
You made a good point earlier when you said it could be because of we're older and our own mortality is like in our face. So you're like, getting a little tougher. I mean, for me, the people that I have known of, people that I've known, they're gone, and you're like, it's just a big shock, and you just, wow, he's dead. Wow, oh my God.
You're right. We are getting older and we are facing our mortality. And I know the death of my dog, my soul dog Zeus, it made me face my mortality. And our society, we're so uncomfortable with talking about death. And I'm glad you could even say that word, Will, because most people, they won't say that, well, he passed on, we had to put him down, or he's no longer with us, they're in a better place, rather than they died.
Or like I think it was Temple Grandin that said, it was here and now it's gone, where'd it go? Or no, it's here and it was here and now it's meat.
Now it's meat.
Where'd it go?
Where'd it go?
You know, so it's like when, you know, your pet dies or somebody dies, where'd they go?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You're going to get another one? You know, you're like, what? I am grieving. We don't just replace things.
Yeah.
I did get that, and that was very upsetting to me a while ago.
Yes.
About 3-4 years ago, I lost a cat I had for 18 years, and I was upset. And this one woman that I used to work with was like, "Why are you that upset?" It just made me so angry that you could be so insensitive.
Because it's an animal. Why are you that upset over an animal? Why are you that upset over a cat?
Yeah, I mean, I had him for 18 years. He's like a brother, you know?
Yes. And I'm sorry you had to hear those comments, Will. And as you have learned, people don't know what to say when we're hurting. And unintentionally, they say very almost abusive things that can drive us deeper into our pain. And so no wonder people isolate, because we don't want to hear those unhelpful comments. So rather than tell people how we're really feeling, we fake it. Oh, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And I teach an acronym for FINE, feelings inside not expressed. Because I don't want to hear those comments. I don't want to explain myself because they're not probably
I like that. That's what people say all the time. Oh, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Say that again. Feelings inside not expressed.
Correct. I don't know about you, but I just I've seen from my life prior to learning about grief recovery, I wasn't prepared on what to do when I was hurting. I had no tools. And, you know, we go to school, we take the CPR, you know, we learn some basic CPR and PE, whatever. But where is the training for when our hearts are hurting?
Thank you.
Who do we call?
Exactly.
No, people say, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's the kind of skills that we need.
Yeah.
Those and others. But just about life.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I'm all about, is giving people the correct information about grief and loss and the tools on how to recover, because loss is inevitable. Hello, we're all going to die. Why can't we talk about it and be prepared for that? I think it's so important that we have information and tools so we don't have to keep living in these emotional prisons.
Yeah.
That we can deal with the regrets. Like you said earlier, Will, the unmet expectations, the hopes and dreams we had for a relationship.
Yep.
So what is the normal grieving process after the loss of a pet? How long? I know it's going to be different for everybody, but how long should it last? What's healthy?
I love what you said. It's different for everyone. You're absolutely right, Stevie, because grief is a unique and individual relationship. My relationship with Zeus was different from my children. I mean, Zeus was the dog I never had as a little girl. The adventures I had with him and the relationship he had with my children, we all grieved differently. It took us a different amount of time. So in grief recovery, we don't put time frames or stages on grief. But what's important is what we do with the time, that we take some type of action.
So what happens if you don't, if you try to ignore it, or, you know, feelings inside not expressed?
That's a great question. First of all, since you guys are into wellness and health, you know how our bodies function. Our bodies aren't meant to be storage units.
Right.
Like, you know what happens when we eat. Something's got to move along, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same way with our emotions. We're not meant to store emotions in our body. We're meant to process them immediately. So if we don't deal with the painful emotions, they stay inside and our body keeps score. It's just a matter of time before it shows up in disease.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Cortisol. It's a powerful hormone. It'll screw up all your other hormones and you'll get sick.
Tell my wife all the time, there's prisons full of people who have just had that buildup of disappointment over their lives to where they snapped.
Right.
And if they just had a chance, they wouldn't be in prison.
You're absolutely right, Will.
Yep.
And it's so sad. It breaks my heart. I mean, suicide could be prevented.
Yep.
We just see so many angry people, and people want to, well, it's because of this, it's because of that. A lot of it, it's mainly because of unresolved things that we're carrying around inside of us. And when we don't deal with it, like you said, people snap.
Yes.
We fall into destructive, hurtful behaviors. And it, from drinking, drugs, cutting, suicide, I could go on and on. Abuse.
Yep.
Angry people hurt people.
Yes.
And
that's very
really
good.
don't mean to.
No,
like they normally would never.
Yeah, they didn't start their life thinking, I'm going to abuse somebody.
Right.
I'm gonna.
So we all know pets have a shorter life expectancy than people, and we'll probably have to go through this a few more times, in our lifetime. What can we do to be prepared for the loss? Like we knew ours was coming because she was elderly, but I still don't feel like I was prepared. Even though I'd lost another one 6 months ago, again from old age.
Right, and that's so good, Stevie, because even though we know someone's going to die, our pet's going to die, when we put Zeus, had him euthanized, I knew he was going to die, but I wasn't prepared for what I was going to feel. So what we do when those feelings hit us, it's really hard for us to just sit with them.
Mm-hmm.
Who likes to feel pain? I'm going to go have surgery today. I can't wait. Cut me open. Give me some shots. No, we are uncomfortable with feeling uncomfortable. We want to fix things. We want to move on. We want to not think about it. But the best thing we can do when we're hurting is to sit with the pain. Because when we acknowledge and feel what we're feeling, it's not going to stay that way forever. It will pass. But also to have a safe person you can confide in. And what I mean by a safe person is someone who will listen to you without interrupting, that they're not going to try to fix you, judge you, label you, but they can just sit and truly listen.
Yeah.
And that is a skill that is really lacking today.
Yeah, for sure. Because there is that need. You want to help somebody. Yeah. If you are the type of person, and if they come to you and they go this and that, you want to jump in and say, well, you should do this and you should do that.
Yes.
It's funny though, in a weird way, is people will have the pet their whole life, grieve, be upset, but then get another one, and they know it's going to happen
that
again.
That was the next, that I was going to say, how do we know?
It's going to happen again.
When it's ready to adopt another pet and put ourselves through the same pain.
Right. But here's the thing, is if we don't take care of everything we were feeling towards that pet, we carry it into the other relationship, and we kind of hope and expect, well, is this new dog going to be like Zeus? Is he going to be well trained? And am I going to have this connection? Or I want the same connection.
Yeah.
And we put these unhealthy, unrealistic expectations on that animal, and it's not fair. And that's
kind of like a rebound in a human relationship.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, it goes back to, we have to take care of the business in the first relationship, because it carries into every other relationship going forward. Unresolved grief, unresolved emotional pain, it's cumulative. It adds, it snowballs, and then it becomes a massive avalanche.
So how do you know when that's happened and you're ready to move on?
When you've taken action steps, when only you know in your heart when you've gotten complete and you've been able to say goodbye and deal with all the unfinished business, the things you wish you had done differently, the things you wish you had done better or more in that relationship or with that animal. And that's, again, what the grief recovery method is all about. It's evidence-based, it's educational, and within it, you learn those steps on how to get complete with anything that's unfinished, with all the regrets, with the hurt, with the things you wish you had done differently, and also the things that you're really going to miss.
And that's that 8-week program that you were talking about earlier.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit more, or? Tell us, what does that entail, or give us a sneak peek?
Sneak peek. Thank you. So it's a very simple program. It's 8 to 10 weeks. I provide all the materials, and it's educational. And like I said, evidence-based. And one thing I always like to make very clear, it's not therapy. And since grief is the normal and natural reaction to any type of loss, this program is very natural because it gives people a platform, an environment to say, to feel whatever they're feeling, and I guide them through the process. And also what makes it so unique is, since I'm not a therapist, I have the freedom to model from my life.
Yeah.
And that is what I love. All the losses I've experienced in my life, and there have been a lot.
Yeah.
I share from those losses and demonstrate practically how to implement the grief recovery method. So it just creates this intimate emotional connection where, again, I'm always going first. I model from, the abuse I've suffered in my life. I model from the loss of my childhood, relationships, the death of my pets, the moves, the loss of my career, the loss of faith, the loss of trust in people. So I demonstrate, and it just creates this really beautiful bond and connection where people, for the first time in their lives, are free to say whatever, and then I get to watch people change right in front of me. It is the most rewarding, fulfilling thing.
Yeah, we get to watch
That's
that
great.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in a different way.
Feeling,
You do it physically, and I see emotionally where people, they get the hope, they get the light back in their eyes, and they have a reason to live again at no matter what age. I'll never forget this elderly woman I had in my office. She was doing the program, and she said, "Hold on, I gotta go." Basically, she had to go to the restroom, and she'd been holding so much pain in her body, and she just came back a different woman, and is living with so much vigor, and she took 20 years of age off of her face. It was just remarkable to watch this woman change.
So dealing with grief is good for healthy aging.
Yeah.
Your skin and your energy. Yeah.
Well, it is. And I feel, the older I get, the younger my spirit is.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I'm still Crystal the Pistol. I'm still carefree, reckless. Well, I don't do as many reckless things as I used to, like riding horses with no saddle or bridle. I know better on that. But I live from my heart. I am who I am 24/7. I don't have to put on different hats. I've learned how to forgive quickly. I learned how to deal with the anger and the painful situations. Whatever happens, I am prepared because of these tools. And I just want to help other people. I want to remove the stigma of grief and loss. Let's talk about what's really going on in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And let's feel better. Let's recover.
Yeah. And I hear a lot, "Oh, I'm too old for this," or, things like comments like that. But no, I if you had anything to say to any older listeners about dealing with grief, what would it be?
It's never too late.
That's what we say.
That's what we say all the time.
You're worth it. And whatever you're holding inside is valuable. It's your story that really, really deserves to be heard because you are special. You are valuable.
Yeah, and I just, when I hear things like giving up or too late, I'm like, so you're just going to sit and, wait for more stuff instead of dealing with it, or just wait to die, or, it's like no matter how old you are, deal with things and enjoy the rest of your life.
Exactly. And that takes courage.
So what is the best way for people to get in touch with you? And do you do things just local, or do you do virtual where you can help anyone anywhere? Or tell us about it.
Both. Yes, I do this work online, and I have an office on the west side. And so I do one-on-one sessions, or I do group sessions. And so I teach a variety of programs, the grief recovery method, and then also pet loss program. And Also, what I love, I have my office mainly for professional purposes. If I meet with men, that's where we meet at my office. But some of my favorite client meetings have been in stables because they love their horses. So we sit on bales of hay. I take hikes with some of my clients because I shoot pool with them. I meet people where they're at so that they feel comfortable and I can help them.
I like that. That's nice.
And so, did you say how they can get in touch with you?
They can reach me on my website at crystal@ebbandflowcos.com and fill out the chat form. That's the best way to reach me.
Okay. So, do you have anything else you'd like to add for our listeners today?
Again, I think what we talked about earlier, it's never too late to change. And this isn't an impossible, overwhelming program. It's very easy. I make it easy in the sense of I guide you and I'm like an emotional coach. And it takes courage, but I'm there with you every step. You don't have to go through this alone. I guess that's the biggest thing I want to say. Don't isolate. Don't grieve alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Have that person that'll listen.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Nice to have you.
Thank you for having me.
And that's it for us today. But be sure to follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our website, send us questions and topics you'd like to learn about. Be sure to get in touch with Crystal if you have any kind of grief that you need to work through and want to get more information about that.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
I'm so
Of
sorry.
course.
Since when people listen to this podcast, I'd love to offer a free 20-minute consultation to learn more about the program. So I'd love to offer a free 20-minute consultation to people listening to this podcast. And also, I am starting a new grief recovery support group in February, the end of February. So again, I can share more about that.
So when you contact her, make sure and mention our podcast, and you'll get that that deal she just mentioned. And if you're in the Colorado Springs area and would like us to help you in person, shoot us an email at contactus@chronologyfit.com or message us on Facebook. And you can check out other great podcasts by visiting studio809radio.com. We hope you have a healthy week and tune in next time to the Functional Fitness and Nutrition Podcast with Chronology.